Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Keep your videos on, please. Yeah, so we are nearing the conclusion of our chapter 2. I think, yeah, limitations and ethical issues. Only two topics are left in this chapter. And Emmeline, you'll be taking seminar tomorrow, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. Anybody else who wants to take the seminar tomorrow? We'll be studying ethical issues next class. Limitations we'll study today. So along with that, Emlyn can take the seminar tomorrow. We'll start the class with the seminar, and then after that, if we have time, I'll complete the chapter. Okay. All right. So what did we learn in the last class? Two methods of analysis. What are they? Abhiram, can you name one? Were you absent last class?
I was not absent, but I'm thinking I was there.
You can't remember. Devika, anyone?
Narrative analysis and content analysis.
That was a part of which type of analysis?
Qualitative.
Qualitative analysis.
Qualitative analysis. So obviously, which is the next one? What type of
Quantitative.
analysis? Quantitative analysis. Mainly there are two types, quantitative as well as qualitative analysis. Okay. And why are the videos again switched off? Please keep it on, everyone. Okay, so we'll start with the limitations of psychological inquiry. Yes, here we discuss some general problems faced by psychological measurement. So whichever method we are using for research, or whichever topic we are selecting for research, or if we are using a mixed method also, there are certain set of general limitations or general problems that one researcher will face while doing a psychological inquiry or a psychological research. So we are going to discuss about those points. There are three main points given in the textbook, page number 39. Okay. Now the first one is lack of true 0 point. There is a lack of true 0 point when we measure the psychological attributes. That is one limitation. For example, when you measure the temperature, what are the various temperatures that you can get? Variety of temperatures.
Celsius, Fahrenheit.
That is a unit, degrees Celsius and Fahrenheit, isn't it? But what are the amounts? What are the quantities that we can get? What is the temperature now? Check it.
32
32 degrees Celsius. Is it? Okay. Then, if you go to Manali, what will be the temperature there?
negative.
Negative temperature will be there, isn't it? Is it possible to have a 0 degree Celsius?
No. Zero. Below
No
zero.
0.
Zero only.
Huh?
Below 0 degree Celsius.
Below 0 degree Celsius only. What is the freezing point or freezing temperature of water? Yes? What is the freezing temperature of water? Google. Let me know when you find out.
0 degree
0 degree.
Celsius.
Yes. How many of you Googled? You didn't bother to even Google. Just Google and find out, just confirm is it correct or not. We don't have the physics teacher here, otherwise I would have asked.
Yeah, ma'am, it's correct.
Yeah, 0 degrees Celsius, isn't it? Yes, freezing point of water is 0 degrees. So there is something called 0 degrees Celsius in physical sciences. In temperature, in any other measurements, we can see that 0 means something. That 0 value or absolute 0 means something in physical sciences. But in psychological inquiry, if we get a 0 value in most of the attributes, it's not meaningful. It's senseless actually. Can we say that a person has 0 intelligence?
No.
It's meaningless if we say like that. Obviously we can say, but that is wrong. Okay, so lack of absolute 0, that is one disadvantage or one limitation of psychological inquiry. Lack of true 0 point, that is the first limitation. And in physical sciences, measurements do start from 0. Like length, if you want to measure length using a ruler, what do? Usually we start from 0, isn't it? We go from 0 to the next number, 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, like that. Yes, in psychological measurements do not have a true 0 point. Do not have a true 0 point. That is one major limitation of psychological inquiry. For example, no
I have a
0
doubt.
intelligence. Yes, Amil Roshan?
In this world, no zero
Huh?
intelligence. I think so.
No 0 intelligence. That's what we are telling. That is the major limitation. We cannot have a value 0 for intelligence. Now, again, if we measure aptitude, can we say one person has 0 aptitude towards something? Can we say one person do not have any attitude towards something? Either the person is having a positive attitude, or the person is having a negative attitude, or the person is having a medium kind of attitude. Neither too negative or too positive. Like that. We cannot say it's 0. It's completely 0. The person is having some form of attitude towards that topic which we are selecting. Okay. And hence arbitrarily decide a point as 0 point and then proceed. Okay, so there is arbitrary selection. Arbitrary means we are not specific about the 0. So we select some or the other point, and if we are measuring psychological attribute in a scale, we randomly select it at 0. For example, I told you there are rating scales that range from 0 to 10 or 0 to 5, isn't it? That is an arbitrary 0. There is no absolute 0 there. Arbitrary means it's not a main focus there. It's not a precise value that we are selecting. We are assuming that there is a 0 and then we are giving a scale, a rating scale. Okay. So whatever scores we get in psychological studies are not absolute in nature, rather they are relative values. Okay, when we learnt about norms in the previous class, I told you if we get a value or a score, maybe for intelligence, we have to make sense of it. We have to interpret that in some form, isn't it? For that we use the norm table. Again, norm table is a comparison table. An average value of the individuals who have earlier scored these set of scores or these set of values. Okay, so we are comparing the participants or the subject score or the client score with those values in the norm table. Otherwise, it will not make any sense. So again, we are having relative values. Relative means comparison values. Okay, and we are not having absolute values or absolute scores in psychological inquiry. So the first limitation is lack of true 0 point. We do not have a true 0 point in psychology. Yes, Amal Roshan.
In the exam only some people get 0. It's psychological measurement.
But exam score is not entirely psychological measurement, right? Again, if you are not answering any question in that question paper correctly, obviously you will get 0. That has a 0 value. Okay, we are talking about psychological testing. Okay. So the next point is relative nature of psychological tools. There we were talking about the scores and the measurement values. Here it is the tools. Don't confuse it. Relative nature of psychological tools. Now, Kevin, please read the first point.
Psychological tests are developed keeping in view the salient features of a particular content.
Context. Yes, when we learned the definition of psychology, we learned the 3 key concepts and that are studied in a particular context or in different contexts, isn't it? The definition I told you, don't miss that tail part of the definition. In different contexts, we study different contexts like mental processes, behaviors and experiences in different contexts. So that is our focus here. For example, yes.
Test urban areas test cannot do to the tribal people.
Some are applicable, some are not. If it is a verbal test, again, when we discuss about the verbal test, if they are illiterate, then it's not applicable. Okay, for that we have something called culture fair tests. Culture fair test means it doesn't involve any kind of verbal comprehension. Like literacy is not a matter there. We'll study that in, I think, next year. Class 12 first chapter we have culture fair tests. Okay. Now, for example, a test developed for urban students may contain items similar to the stimuli in urban settings like airplanes, metro railway, multi-storied buildings, etc. If there are items worded in such a way that they are applicable only to the urban environment, then obviously that is particular to that context, isn't it? Urban context. Yeah, a person from a village area or a rural area might not understand what that is. Okay. This won't be suitable for those in tribal areas or rural areas. Such tests need to be properly modified and adapted, keeping in view the characteristics of the context in which they are to be used. So if we are testing that, finding average values in both urban areas as well as rural areas, if you are making it applicable in both the areas, what do you call that procedure? Like I'm telling that this is applicable in rural area, this is applicable in urban area. So that means I can say that this test is dash for urban participants or participants in urban area.
Applicable?
Louder, I didn't hear.
Applicable.
Applicable, okay, but in research terms, what do we say? No. Starts with S.
Standardized.
Yes, standardized. We call it standardized. Standardized means, again, when we discussed about standardization, I told you It can be standardized among Indian participants. It can be standardized in American participants. It can be standardized in a rural area, applicable in rural areas. It can be standardized in a population of urban area. So that means it is applicable there. I told you before choosing a particular test, you have to make sure that it is standardized in that population, standardized for that gender, applicable to people of all gender, and also applicable for people of all ages. Okay, so that is one thing. We have to consider the context, and we have to see if that is applicable in different contexts. That is the relative nature of psychological tools. The tools may not be applicable to all contexts. That is one thing. Now the next one, subjective interpretation of qualitative data. When we discussed qualitative method in the previous class, I told you subjectivity might come in qualitative analysis. Okay, and quantitative, obviously that is a value. There is no other interpretation given for that. Okay, so we discussed about IQ score 150. We have the norms table, we can refer to that and we can find the value. Is it average intelligence? Is it above average intelligence? Is it low average intelligence, and so on? Or is it superior? Is it inferior? Like that we can get the exact interpretation of that. But in qualitative, what are we doing? We are finding patterns. It depends on the researcher. Like if I am finding patterns, my wordings might be different from how you word it. Okay, and the way I find the pattern might be different, slightly different from yours also. Okay, that is why in qualitative analysis we need to have different number of researchers, so that we'll get a generalized value, or generalized conclusion for the research. Okay, so that is the third limitation, subjective interpretation of qualitative data. Meryl, read the first point.
Data from qualitative studies are largely subjective since they involve interpretation on the part of researcher as well as the respondent.
Yes, as well as the respondent.
Ma'am,
Now, yes.
ma'am, what is the meaning making process?
Meaning making process. Meaning making process means, we'll do one thing. Okay, Amal, tell me, what have I drawn here? Tell me whatever you understood.
This is a person.
This is a person. Okay. Shreya, what did I draw here? Tell me something. At the first glance, whatever you understood, you tell me. Tell us.
The person is not happy.
Huh? Person is not happy. So obviously you assume that this is a person. Now, Mary Angelina. Mary Angelina is a very long, lengthy name. Can we call you Mary or Angelina, or do you have any other name?
No, ma'am, you can call Mary or Angelina.
What do your friends call you?
Mary.
Mary. Okay, we'll call Mary. Alright, you tell me. What can you interpret from this drawing? The so-called drawing.
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Um,
Does this look like me? Huh? Louder, dear.
and this person is not happy.
Again, the person is not happy.
Not happy.
Not happy. Rose.
ma'am.
What do you think this picture is about?
Sad.
Sad. Okay. What if I tell you that I have drawn just one box, one circle, two dots, one sleeping lion,
Triangle.
and one triangle? So the meaning has changed, isn't it? You can see geometrical figures there. Some of you told it's a person, some of you interpreted the emotion shown in the picture also. Okay, so the process of finding meaning to the stimulus. This is the stimulus. This whole thing is a stimulus here, and finding meaning to that stimulus is different, isn't it, Amal Roshan? You thought it was a person. I told it's a set of geometrical figures, and Shreya and Mary, they spoke about the emotions. Again, Rose also said the same thing, isn't it? So the meaning making process means the process involved in finding a meaning to the stimulus. Whatever stimulus is in front of us, the process is involved while we engage in finding a meaning to the stimulus. That is the meaning making process. Understood, Amal? Okay. So here again
Ma'am.
data from, yes.
Why this subject in research more than one person? Why we need this
Why we need?
than one person to investigate this subjective interpretation?
Yeah, that is because if suppose if again Mary, Shreya, Rose, Amal and me, 5 of us gave interpretation on that stimulus which I drew on the board, isn't it? Yeah. If only Amal is giving the interpretation, or only Amal is the researcher and only Amal is giving the report on the stimulus, then we'll get only that response, isn't it? We'll only get that one interpretation of the stimulus. That is one person. But there are other possibilities also. We are human beings. All the researchers are human beings, isn't it? It's not necessary that they get all the patterns together. They understand or they are able to interpret that stimulus in or that research material in all the ways possible. That is why we need so many researchers or so many investigators to investigate that particular subject or topic of interest. Okay, now again, they involve interpretation on the part of the researcher as well as the respondent. Last day we discussed about qualitative analysis, and I told you when we ask somebody about their happiness, what makes you happy? Respondent, according to the respondent, the responses also varies, isn't it? So there is subjectivity in terms of the responses also, from the side of the respondent also, and from the side of the researcher, again we discussed right now. Each researcher is different. One researcher might be different from the other investigator or the researcher, and the way they interpret also differs from person to person. So there is subjectivity and subjective interpretation from two sides, from respondent as well as the researcher. Then, therefore, it is suggested that the field work should be done by more than one investigator, who at the end of the day should discuss their observations and arrive at an agreement. Finally, they arrive at an agreement before finally giving it a meaning. It is always better if the respondents are also included in this meaning making process. Again, I drew something on the board right now, isn't it? And what I aimed was to show you certain set of geometrical figures, but you interpreted it in different ways. Yes. So here, that is why the respondents can also be included in the meaning making process. Like we are making a meaning out of their response, isn't it? Now, if we are coming to a conclusion which is totally different from their feelings and emotions, then was there really a need for a study? No. Because according to the researcher, if the story is modified and interpreted and patterns are found and the results are entirely different from what the respondents feel or what the respondents experience, then there is no meaning in doing that study. So at times, if possible, we can also include the respondents in the meaning making process. Not in the quantitative type, but in qualitative type. Okay. So that was the third limitation, subjective interpretation of qualitative data. That is again one disadvantage of the qualitative measures or qualitative methods. In quantitative, this doesn't happen, or this much subjectivity does not occur because we have so many objective measures. We have a crisp responses or fixed set of responses, and we can easily calculate them using statistical measures also. So it's very easy there, easy as compared to qualitative. I mean, those who follow the method of qualitative analysis, some of them argue that qualitative is very easy, but in my personal opinion, qualitative is a bit tough than the quantitative one, and subjectivity, that is the main disadvantage of qualitative measure. But if we want to get the real essence of that topic of interest, again we can choose qualitative too. And if you ask me which one is the best, I would say you can use a mixed method. If you want to know more about the topic, you can use a qualitative as well as a quantitative measure. Okay. For example, again back to a happiness example, you can use quantitative test. You can use questionnaires regarding happiness, or along with that you can use this form of interview method, like not with closed-ended questions but with open-ended questions, so that we get a quality of that data from the participants. Okay, so if you use mixed method, I think it will be more informative for the study and useful for the study also. So these are the 3 limitations given in your textbook, page 39, limitations of psychological inquiry. First one is lack of true 0 point or absolute 0 point. Second one is relative nature of psychological tools. Third one is subjective interpretation of qualitative data. Okay, now the last one is ethical issues, which has 5 points that we'll discuss in the next class. Emily, which is your topic?
Psychologist at work.
Psychologists at work. Okay. So we'll have that seminar tomorrow. How much time do we have?
Ma'am.
20 minutes. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Doubt.
Yeah, if I take seminar, can I take little more time to explain it? I write more information about the topic.
Yes. Sure. But don't go too much out of syllabus. Okay. The point of conducting seminars and classes to understand how much you guys have understood the topic, and also how much you can elaborate on that. Like if somebody else comes and asks you what is this particular topic, then you have to become capable of explaining it to that person, describing the phenomenon to the other person. Okay, that's the point of learning psychology, isn't it? Yes. Yes, Emily.
Ma'am, will you repeat the third point of limitation?
Yes. Please switch on your videos. Okay, subjective interpretation of qualitative data. Qualitative data means when we gather qualitative information. I'll give you an example. When we discussed about quantitative and qualitative analysis, I gave you an example on happiness, isn't it? So imagine we are doing a research on happiness, and we are going to set of students, maybe 10 standard students who are going to attend the exam, board exam, and we are trying to measure their happiness versus the students who have already completed. Okay, now we are conducting qualitative method of research. which means we are getting a quality of information. We are not giving any questionnaires or rating scales to them. And if we are using that, we'll get quantity of information. We'll get it in a numerical form. Okay, but we are not using that. Instead, we are having an interview. We are taking 30 students and we are conducting interviews. We are asking them open-ended questions. Open-ended questions means we'll get information or data in the form of descriptive material or narrations. It can be in the form of narration. They might speak about, oh, we'll do one thing. Yeah, you all are kind of past 10th standard exams, isn't it? Yeah, the blessed batch, I would say. So, what is your experience? How much happy are you about that? Speak. Amal is sad because he could not conduct the party, that I know. Isn't it, Amal?
I will pass. I know that.
No. I'm asking about the main results. You haven't got your results yet, right? Yeah. He was waiting so bad for the results, and then after that, he planned for all the party and all. Isn't it? Yes. CBSE people are keeping you on wait. Yeah. So, how do you feel now about it? I'm asking to everyone.
I'm relaxed than before.
Relaxed than before. Okay.
Ma'am, what is the question?
Were you sleeping in between? I'm asking how much, what do you feel? How much happy are you that you didn't have to attend the main board exam?
I'm super happy.
Super happy. Explain it to me, and why are you having such a feeling? Or how did you feel before? Give me reasons of your happiness.
And because it was such a gassed up topic, like it's been talked about like 1 year prior to even entering 10th, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Like what? What were you talking about in the
Like
previous
all,
year?
not me, like everyone around me was talking about it, like all the excitement was being built
Yeah.
up over years and
Oh
years.
my god, Abhilash is 10th standard. This
Yeah.
time he'll attend board exams. What marks will he get? Kind of, isn't it?
Yeah, and then boom, everything gone.
Yeah, too much. I know. Yes.
Some
After,
of the people are telling that we are not, anybody of the students are not write the 10th board exam and passed and sitting in the 11th. I am happy.
I didn't get your point.
It is the first time we are not, anybody of students are not.
Yes, that's why I called you the blessed batch.
Uh,
You didn't attend
no
the
any
board exam
concept.
and
We
still
are
you're
sitting in the
there.
11th standard, ma'am.
That's what I'm telling.
12th
Yes.
standard, it is very difficult to write the exam. Board patterns.
Is it? Is it?
Yes, I think so.
But for some of you, at least it'll be easy, I think. Like those who give short answers and those who don't know to elaborate on topics, it'll be easier because it's MCQ for first term. Right now it's MCQ. As of now, it is decided that we'll have MCQ for class 12, and for you guys also. In the
Class-
syllabus, it is given
I
MCQ
have a
test.
written test also there, you know.
Written test depends on how the pandemic goes. Okay, now don't derail from the topic. Tell me, why are you happy? What are the reasons of your happiness? One is this all the blah 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 talking around. Then Sanjana, tell me your
Nothing like that,
experience.
ma'am.
Nothing, ma'am. Nothing, ma'am. Malavika, again, why are your videos still off? 5 classes today also. Tell me, talk. Alina. Speechless. That much happy she is. Okay, let it be. So, Emmeline, back to your doubt. See here, I asked a general question, isn't it? That was an open-ended question. You all could answer in whichever way you would have liked, and we got mixed answers. Again, this much amount of responses are not enough to find the patterns, but still, we'll imagine that some of you told that it's because you don't have to get scoldings from your parents or maybe from your teachers, and maybe you don't like writing too much, that's why you're happy. Okay, and some of you might have maybe you were so scared of board exams and now you're relaxed because of that, you didn't have to attend the board exam, so on. You get a variety of responses, isn't it? So from that we find patterns. For some of you, like escaping from the scoldings of teachers and the parents, or maybe the school authorities, or maybe relatives or cousins, that might be one pattern, escapism or avoidance oriented strategies, or maybe avoidance oriented reasons. That can be one pattern. That is my opinion. But you guys might, if you are my fellow researchers, you might find a different pattern. Okay, you can find different patterns depending on the responses that we get from the respondents. So there is subjectivity. Subjectivity means it's not definite, it's not objective in nature. Okay, that is why we are supposed to have many researchers, and at the end of the day, what do? All the researchers, we all are doing the same research. We all are a part of the same research, same topic, and at the end of the day, we have to discuss the observations. We discuss with each other whatever patterns we all have found out. Okay, now if it is again combinable to some other pattern, we can find that. We can make our own conclusions, we can discuss it, we can debate on it, and finally we arrive at an agreement before giving it a final meaning, before making it a final conclusion. Okay, it's like we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 responses from participants. For example, we group this into one category, that is one pattern. We group these into another category. Maybe if we have 7, 8, 9, we group that into, if there is a pattern, sorry, where do I close it? Okay, if there is a pattern, again we group it into another category. So obviously I have found A, B, C patterns for it. Imagine like that. Now if you have another set of A, B, C pattern, or maybe D, that is another set. Now at the end of the day, what do? We discuss this A with your A. If it is combinable, we will make into a new A. Or if we can take some parts from C and put into your A, we will combine that and make another B. So finally, at the end of the day, we will have a set of responses or set of patterns that we have already found out together. That will be a combined form of each of our findings, of each of our patterns. Okay, and then we have to agree upon all these things after the discussion. Then we can make it a conclusion. So before making it a conclusion, or before finding the meaning to the results of the study, the researchers or the different investigators who were involved in the study, they have to sit together, find a pattern, and then only do the rest. Okay, conclude it. That is why we are telling there is subjectivity in, or subjective interpretation is there for qualitative data. If it was quantitative data, if we have values 150, if we have values 160, if we have values 210, we have a definite interpretation for it. There is no need of so many researchers to make meaning for that particular value. We already have norms table, we already have the interpretation tables to look into. Okay, understood now?
Yes, ma'am.
Alright.
Thank you.
Now we have 5 minutes, 7 minutes or so, isn't it? Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Please take your textbooks. Chapter 1. Chapter 1, the last section, review questions. Shreya, read the first question.
What is behavior? Give example over it and convert behavior.
Why are you always telling secrets? Okay, what is a behavior? We have already learned that. Page number. Wait a minute. Yes, page number 3. Okay, in bolded letters you have it. Behaviors are responses or reactions we make or activities we engage in. There itself we have two types of behaviors, covert behaviors and overt behaviors. Overt means which are observable, which others can
Yes.
see. Covert means the opposite. Okay, you can also write examples for it. Then second question, Kevin, please read.
Ma'am, I don't have the textbook.
You don't have it. Devika?
How can you distinguish scientific psychology from the popular notions about the discipline of psychology?
Yeah, that is the section we learned about common sense and psychology. How both of them are different in nature. Common sense, psychology is different from common sense, and we also learned one study. Remember the name? I asked you all to read and come. An important study. Dweck's study. Okay, you can write that as an example to explain the answer. That is how you distinguish scientific psychology from popular notions about the discipline of psychology. And again, psychology is not all the pseudo things like astrology. It's different from astrology, palm reading, all these things. Okay, write that as a conclusion. Then question 3. Sanjana, can you read question 3?
Ma'am, my textbook is in the other room.
Mary.
Can I read?
Amal, you can read the next one. Mary, read the third question.
Give a brief account of the evolution of psychology.
Okay, evolution of psychology. What will you write about evolution of psychology?
Me.
What have we learned in that?
Ma'am, I was not there.
I'm asking the rest of the people, not you. That's why I made you to read the question. Others tell me. Poor child.
Ma'am, Schools of Psychology, the
Schools of
University of
Psychology.
Leipzig,
Yeah.
William Wundt.
University of Leipzig, Wilhelm Wundt. All those things. So, in schools of psychology, structuralism, functionalism, behaviorism, all those things. Okay. Now I cannot say that this will come for the essay question because it's MCQ. So obviously this topic is important, schools of psychology. Okay, Amal, next question.
What are the problems for which collaboration of psychologists with other disciplines can be fruitful? Take any two problems to explain.
To explain, yeah, psychology and other disciplines. That is the topic. Okay, they have asked in a twisted way, that's all. We have to write about psychology and other disciplines, and you can write in an elaborate way how to connect between psychology or how to link psychology with the other disciplines. And they have asked two problems, so maybe you can specifically write on any two. any two disciplines which are related to psychology. Then next question, Alina. I cannot hear. It's okay. Differentiate between a psychologist and a psychiatrist, a counselor and a clinical psychologist. Again, direct question. You have that in the textbook. Okay. Psychologist and psychiatrist, main difference is the profession. The academic qualification.
Can give
A
medicine.
professional degree. Okay, and also prescription of medicine. Psychiatrists can, psychologists cannot. Then counselor and clinical psychologist, it's mainly dealing with the severity of problems. Counselor is dealing with less severe, the other one with the more severe disorders and all. Clinical psychologist. Now question 6, describe some of the areas of everyday life where understanding of psychology can be put to practice. That is the last section of the textbook. Psychology in everyday life. You can use it, you can use psychological strategies for, in the case of politics, when elections come, then in everyday life, in your own life, to increase self-awareness, to change your behaviors, for learning good habits, so and so. It's clearly given in the last section, psychology in everyday life. Then 7th question, how can knowledge of the field of environmental psychology be used to promote environment friendly behavior? One thing is in preventing natural disasters, or not exactly preventing natural disasters, just not increasing the chance of a natural disaster happening. Like the environment friendly behaviors have to be promoted and all those things. Generally when we write about environment and behavior, we write certain points, right? Like use eco-friendly items, then increase use of eco-friendly bags and all these things, reduce use of plastic, and how can we use psychological strategies to implement all these things. That is important. Okay. Then 8th question, in terms of helping solve an important social problem such as crime, which branch of psychology do you think is most suitable? Identify the field and discuss the concerns of the psychologists working in this field. Okay, so when you hear crime itself, you might think of criminal psychology, forensic psychology and all, but we have learned, we have elaborately learned about social psychology, right? It's about social groups, how people's behavior change in the presence of others. Okay, so that is the main field where we study all these things. Okay, so you can note down social psychology. Then, yeah, that's it, right? 8 questions. Okay. So we'll wind up and see you in the next class. Thank you.